What's up, guys? It's the Realist Rap Manor YouTube channel here. A different setup, if you know. Um, the reason why that is because my stepmom and my dad are basically away on holiday, right? So I have the place to myself. Great, right? And yeah, I mean, when my dad comes back, he's gonna expect me to start paying bills, even though I'm only gonna be there for 3 more weeks, which is retarded. But yeah, that's pretty much what's happening in life right now. Not a lot, honestly. Didn't sleep that well last night, shock. But other than that, everything else is not too bad, right? I've got to place myself for the next week. But today I'm going to be talking about 10 reasons why you shouldn't have a kid. First one, that being is going to suffer eventually, right? Whether you like it or not, whatever life you give to that child is going to suffer at some point in its life. It's going to go through a lot of suffering and it's going to give a lot of trauma or just a bad time, right? And when that kid, even if you give that kid enough money, even when you give that kid good looks, even if you give that kid a sense of being in this world, in this shit world, you know, it's not going to always end well, right? Because eventually that kid is going to get old. It's going to need hip replacements. It's going to need a knee replacement. It's going to get dementia. It's not going to be as attractive. It's going to have to deal with his loved ones dying. It's going to have to deal with his pets dying. It's going to have to deal, with a life that, let's be fair, is going to be very mediocre most likely and isn't going to be that fulfilling, right? And that's another reason why you shouldn't bring first reason why you shouldn't bring a kid. But the most important one is it's going to suffer anyway. You're basically giving a life sentence. You're basically putting a flesh suit into this world with a bunch of wants and needs, mostly negative or things that it can't get. And it's just not going to end well. It's just not going to end well, right? It never does. As Kurt Cobain said, no one dies a virgin because we all get fucked in the end. And that's the whole point of why you shouldn't bring a kid. Life's going to fuck you over eventually, and it's going to suck. Right? We're all going to die. So why would you bring a life into this world and say this life's amazing when it doesn't even keep you alive anyway? You're going to die anyway, which is a good thing in itself because then you won't have to suffer anymore, I suppose. But number 2, that kid could get bullied. I got bullied. It sucks. It's not a nice thing to go through. And I luckily didn't get punched around the face or get punched in the stomach or anything like that. But I did get floored onto the ground, as I think I've said. I've had my trousers covered in mud. I've had people make up rumours about me. I've had kids say that I'm ugly, they make up false rumours about me, put my old YouTube videos on the TV and say that I was a fucking weirdo and all this other shit, which hurts more because, I don't know, honestly, the things that hurt me wasn't the physical shit. Me getting shoved onto the floor, me getting punched in the arm. I think I did get punched in the stomach at one point, actually. It's the stuff like that doesn't hurt me. It's the verbal shit. I don't know what it is, but I get more upset over when people say horrible things to me than when people punch me. I don't know what it is. I just react a lot more calmly when I get hit. I don't know why. But regardless of what bullying is not nice. Even getting bullied for a week or something sucks and it can be traumatizing. Let going like I did, get bullied for nearly 3 years straight. It fucking sucks. And kind of to do with the second one, that kid can end up having mental health issues, or could be born with mental health issues because society thought it was a good idea to pass on your shitty genetics and thought, oh, I've got autism, oh, she's got OCD, so we're going to fuck and we're going to create this child that has both of those things and it's going to cause a bunch of problems. Now, a lot of my mental health problems I think were caused from the way I was brought up, not from my genetics. There's no one in my family that I know had OCD from a young age, had anxiety from a young age, had autism from a young age. The only person I know that probably has autism is my dad, right? So I probably caught it off from him. But in terms of the OCD, the ADHD, everything else, I have a cousin who has ADHD, but he got it from his father, not from his mother. and his mother is my auntie. So that doesn't make any sense. So I just think a lot of my mental health issues aren't genetic, but a lot of the time they are. And you can't control someone when they repeatedly wash their hands all the time like I do, or you can't control having an autistic meltdown. You can't control having intrusive thoughts of hurting and killing people. You can't control those things, and they're awful to deal with because so many people just don't get you when you have these things. And just that alone, just from being misunderstood, makes you go insane, even if you don't get bullied per se. And let alone the fact that, think about all the mental health issues that kid could get from the way, I don't know, because the father figure isn't there. I had that. Or the mother is too overprotective, just like mine was. Oh, that kid, you know what I mean? Or that kid ends up having to deal with addicts or something like that. That kid's going to get mental health issues regardless. So, yeah, why would you bring a kid into this world when that kid could have mental health issues? Number 4, that kid might end up coming out ugly and struggling in the dating scene. And with the dating scene, it's fucking awful, right? It's awful. Like, and unless you're a hot woman or you're a Chad, so you're a Chad or a Stacey, right? You're going to be very lucky to find someone. It sucks. I think men have it worse when it comes to dating than women, right? If there's any women that disagree, feel free, but I just don't believe that, right? But it's fucked either way because the dating scene is totally fucked up. You know, not like I'm bothered about it now anyway, but that kid might struggle and get bullied for it being ugly, or, you know, struggle to find matches and stuff, online dating and stuff, because of you being not that attractive yourself and passing on those genes, and now that kid has to suffer and potentially die lonely or something. You know, and that's not a thing that a kid should have to go through. Simple as. So that's another reason a kid can end up coming out with a deformity, or can end up becoming ugly or something and struggling to find a partner in life. Number 5, could get cancer or some other long form illness that will eventually kill you off, but will be very painful. Something like tuberculosis, like Arthur Morgan did in Red Dead Redemption 2. Or cancer, like my great granddad did. You know, it took him a year. That's awful. You know, to have a painful illness like that for an entire year, that's going to really mess you up. And do you want to see your own loved one get that illness and risk itself dying? You know what I mean? All because you forced this sentient being onto this world to suffer and get that illness when you could have prevented that in the first place and not had a kid. You know, it's simple as. 6, has to deal with a cost of living. With this world today, it's not fucking cheap. You pretty much have to live from paycheck to paycheck, or just go on benefits like I am, if you want to fucking survive, right? Let alone the fact you've got to get a driver's license, let alone the fact that you've got to get a job in the first place, which takes fucking ages now. It's just not worth bringing a kid into this world, knowing the fact that kid, even if that kid has a good childhood, even if that kid gets brought up well, even if that kid does fine as a young adult as well, and doesn't have any genetic issues, that kid's still got to deal with a cost of living crisis. You know, that kid's still got to deal with a cost of living crisis. You know, that's not a good thing to deal with, because, you know, what happens if, and that's another thing as well with being a parent, it's expensive as well, and like, you're more likely to go homeless. Do you want your kid to experience being homeless? I mean, I was actually homeless, believe it or not, back when I was 13, but we stayed in a Premier Inn, and we had like a nice breakfast, so it wasn't that bad. Could have been worse, but just the thought of not having a home, your own privacy, sucks as a kid, right? So why would you do that? I just don't get it. Like, why would you bring a kid into the world when inflation's going up, where you need a partner just to afford a fucking flat, let alone buy your own house to yourself? Then the fact you have to work 40 plus hours a week, and you have to deal with shitty co-workers, you have to deal with the workforce, which is terrible and doesn't pay you enough. It's like the whole system's screwed, and you're bringing a child into this mess. Just why? And the more we keep bringing children to this mess, the more it keeps going. But 7, which also could play into cost of living. You could end up being the parents could end up becoming an addict to alcohol or drugs. Do you want your kid to see that? Or your kid could end up becoming an addict. Do you want your kid to become a drug addict? Do you want your kid, because you brought it into a world where you weren't prepared to properly raise it, and what do you know? That kid would end up getting drug addiction, that kid ended up becoming an alcoholic, or you ended up becoming an alcoholic, and then that kid ended up becoming and copying you. Do you want that? You're asking for problems if you do that. It's a recipe for disaster. Literally a recipe for disaster. And yet people still think it's fine. If you drink all the time, it's fine to bring a kid. It's just fucking retarded. It doesn't make any sense. So many people justify these addicted parents like they're going to be good, but they're really not. You should be setting an example for your kid. And I see too many parents smoking or vaping or smoking weed, which I don't think weed's bad for you, by the way, but I just don't think kids should be around that, right? Or any of these things are bad per se, you're an adult, but the kids shouldn't be exposed to that sort of thing, right? And I see too many parents, especially chavs in the UK, chav single mothers who literally smoke all the time around their kids. It's disgusting, So yeah, like you could be an addict, your kids could be addicts. Like it's just not worth it. 8, kind of to do more with the parents more than the kids. Less sex and sleep. Having a kid is literally like an insomnia tablet. You're basically creating a reality where you're going to have insomnia, where you're not going to have enough time to have sex anymore with your partner because your kid's constantly keeping you up all night and you have no privacy anymore. It's just not great, right? It's just not great. And you shouldn't have, you know what I mean? It's just not worth it bringing a kid into this world. Why would you bring a kid into this world when you're going to lose sleep, when you're going to not have as much sex as you used to, because that kid's going to disrupt your privacy, it's going to disrupt your sleep, it's going to mess up your hormones, it's going to mess up your whole entire life pretty much, just so you can sacrifice your life for theirs. And in the end, that child's going to get fucked anyway. Like, what is the actual point in it? Like, what is the actual point? But 9, anyway, which is kind of to do with, in general, we're overpopulated, right? We cannot afford to keep bringing more and more human beings into this world. We cannot afford to keep bringing more beings into this world because we are literally on the verge of a sick mass extinction event. About 70% of all wildlife in the last 100 years has gone extinct because of our greed, because of overpopulation, and because of oil, big companies flying on their private jets, virtue signaling about the climate change issue, right? That is very true as well. But the overpopulation has certainly played a large part as well. I think the climate change or the environmental issues we face right now is very complex. I don't think it's as simple as carbon dioxide, that's it. I think there's a lot more to it than I think it's very nuanced. It's not as black as white as what the politicians and the news are telling us. But overpopulation is definitely a part of it. If you've got too many, can you imagine the 8 billion chimpanzees? We'd be calling for Planet of the Apes. It'd be stupid. So yeah, that's another reason not to have a kid, but just simply there's too many of us, right? If you don't have a kid, you're going to lower the population, simple as, and the environment might improve a bit. I think we're fucked anyway, but yeah. And 10, the last one, too expensive. It's kind of do with 6. It's just too expensive to raise a kid these days. Why on earth would you raise a kid in a shitty apartment where you can't have a garden, you can't afford to take that kid out during the weekend and give it a good life, and on top of that, you can't afford to give that kid good clothes, you can't afford to give that kid a constant haircut to stop it from being bullied and being outcasted and shit. You know what I mean? It's like, why on earth would you risk your whole life to raise up another being when it doesn't need to be there anyway? It doesn't make any sense, but yet these parents, they think that having a kid will give them purpose or stop them from being lonely, and they have someone to take care of them when they get older, which is a very selfish thing to do. When you have kids, you have it for yourself, you don't have it for the kid. But even then you get fucked over and you lose a lot of things anyway. But yeah, that's it. And yeah, and peace.